Hi, everybody. This is Eric Unger, and welcome to the first episode of The Red Lettuce, Episode 1, The Phantom Lettuce, which is pretty awesome. Thank you all for watching. If you are watching, this is live, so I don't know if anyone's watching. But, you might be wondering, what is the red lettuce? What's the concept? Like, what's going on here? So I created a show called The Red Lettuce, and I wanted to combine communism and veganism together because I think those two things go together very well. I think those two movements should be joined together in the effort to overthrow and dismantle capitalism, because it's the system that's destroying the planet and the world and all living beings. So that's why I created it, and that's hence the name. And this is a show where we talk about the political landscape and current events through a queer, communist, vegan lens. And I have a co-host with me, his name is Paul. Paul isn't really any of those things, but he's close enough.
I'm not queer. I'm not vegan. I'm not a communist. I have queer leanings and communist leanings, and I was vegan for a while.
So
but
you're
I'm
close
weak.
enough.
I'm weak.
Close enough. So I'm really thankful to have Paul with me to discuss what's going on in the world right now. As you can see, I'm wearing a shirt that says U.S. wars are imperialist, and I got that from the Empire Files. They're an awesome show. It's an awesome show, and Abby Martin and Mike Preisner are heroes, and I recommend watching all their videos and subscribing to them as well and buying their merch. But our first story of the day has to do with the U.S. Rogue state and its aggression on Iran and Iraq. And as of right now, we are at war, and Iran has rightfully struck back against the U.S. empire. It has every right to do so. It's defending itself. As of right now, it has taken down U.S. war jets, and it has bombed military bases. And the war is on right now. And Paul, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, at the
weigh
time
in.
of recording this, I mean, it is active, right? It's going on right now. We were doing our show Hardlines Media right before this, and about 5:15, we started seeing tweets to the effect of, the Iranian press is saying that Iran has initiated strikes against air bases in Iraq. American air bases, specifically the Al-Assad air base, which it was nice to have John Hodges here in the studio just a while ago, because he was able to explain, because he's former military, was able to point out that the Al-Assad air base in Iraq is maybe not the largest air base in Iraq, but one of the large air bases in Iraq. It's significant, and this is the kind of escalation of tensions that we've been worrying about, but also expecting to see in the wake of the assassination of Soleimani.
Right,
Yep.
and I'm just getting a tweet right now, and it's from the this is from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. It said, if Tehran is targeted, we will strike inside the United States. So they mean business, and rightfully so. And this is really the time for Americans to get into the streets and oppose war of all kinds, but especially right now on Iran. We need to oppose this war of aggression. If there's any deaths, but I think there are some unconfirmed deaths already, and if they are confirmed, this is on the hands of Donald Trump and his genocidal administration.
Yeah, completely. I mean, there's no way. There's no two ways to dice this. So it's interesting though when you start talking about it and thinking about it from a little bit more of a philosophical point of view, because from the on the groundness of it, you end up in sort of the two camps. The camp that we're in, which is sort of nothing about America's actions here are justifiable. America is lying through its teeth about everything that it's saying justifies what it's doing. Nothing that it's saying justifies what it's doing would, in fact, justify its doing. But the justifications are lies. The actions are abhorrent. This deserves every level of condemnation. This requires that people get out into the street and protest. I loved seeing the video of like Mike Preisner in L.A.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was
Dude,
amazing.
He always makes awesome speeches. Very fiery guy and very well spoken. He's a hero for sure. And I was at the protest in Chicago, and let me tell you, Chicago is very anti-imperialist, and I think that's a sentiment throughout the country. As we saw, I think there were 80 demonstrations throughout the country, thousands in the streets. I mean, in Chicago alone, I was there and I saw everything. I was participating. We broke through like the police, like they designate like where we need to go. We broke through that. We went into this traffic and people got arrested. It was intense. And this war should be opposed at all costs, and we should really be in the streets
So you know what's
opposing this.
weird?
Oh, and also. This administration has taken this a step further and started to attack and criminalize Iranian citizens. Oh, well, actually, any Iranian person from Iran, regardless of citizenship, on their U.S. borders. They detain them, question them. So there's another. The U.S. is unleashing a xenophobic terror campaign against Iranians here as well. I don't know if you guys discussed that on the Heartland show.
Not really all that extensively, but I think that's important. One thing I wanted to get at also, though, was sort of the U.S. imperialist line. That's its way of justifying or attempting to justify what it's doing is not universally being condemned in the way I think that we should, right? I think there are your mega Trump apologists, your MAGA folks, love this. They love it. They love it. And so there's some part of that comes back to the election. Is like, well, maybe maybe that helps Trump among his base in some ways. But I'm starting to see arguments come from folks that are not totally on board with the killing of everyone, but will say there's nothing that can be done to stop America. It's very like it's a little bit of zero-sum political thinking, but also it's bigger stick diplomacy thinking of like, no, we have the bigger army, and so we will win. We will get what we want. Like, and as much as we say, yeah, but that's unjust. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. Let's not assassinate people. Don't start wars. Hey, Iran is justified in trying to protect itself. Hey, you're overreacting. Hey, this is overreach. Hey, this is a war crime. To that person, war crimes are just a fake, fairy tale that, people who are good-natured tell themselves the world works that way. But in reality, the person who has the bigger stick wins. And there aren't really rules to war, because the person with the bigger stick wins. And we've got the bigger stick, and if you're going to say we shouldn't win, then you hate America. And so that's sort of, and I do a horrible job at making this argument because I think it's not a good argument. And so I do want to throw it out there as like, this is shit people say.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, yeah. And I think we should kind of highlight how this all started, what kind of really ignited this war. With the assassination of Soleimani. There's been a disinformation campaign through the U.S. corporate media The corporate media is always pro-war. You know, they're funded by the military-industrial complex, and the State Department. They get approval from them, so they repeat all their talking points as well. So if you just watch mainstream media, you're going to hear that Soleimani was this evil terrorist who was plotting against the United States, and he needed to be taken out, and what have you. But that's a lie. Trump is lying. The media is lying. What actually did happen was Soleimani is a revered hero. He defeated ISIS in Syria and helped fight ISIS in Iraq and throughout the region, really. Mm-hmm. So he's a really beloved war hero, and the Trump administration assassinated him. It wasn't by mistake. It was on purpose. They knew he was coming there because, according to Abdul Mahdi, who is the prime minister of Iraq, he had planned to meet Soleimani on the morning that the general was killed to discuss a diplomatic reproach that Iraq was brokering between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So he was there on a peaceful mission, and Abdul Mahdi said that Trump personally thanked him for the efforts, even as he was planning the hit on Soleimani, thus creating the impression that the Iranian general was safe to travel. And that's when, on that morning, Trump ordered the assassination.
So
him.
Trump knew that Soleimani was going to be traveling to Baghdad. He knew why he was going to be traveling to Baghdad. The reason was for basically peace talks, right? For diplomatic negotiation and actually advancing peace. So in order to actually advance peace,
right,
Trump assassinates that guy.
Right.
That's the thing that, according to Trump, is going to prevent a war and not start it.
War
is
is
making
peace.
sure that we don't have
War
these
is
goddamn
peace, Paul.
talks.
Yeah.
Enough of these fucking peace talks. I'm going to
Can't
kill
have
that guy.
peace. The empire can't have peace because otherwise imperialism won't succeed.
Right.
And capitalism won't succeed. It goes against those two things. And it's also ridiculous because they said that this was like all of a sudden, like, we caught him plotting terror attacks against the U.S. and personnel in the region, which isn't true because Pompeo pitched assassinating Soleimani to Trump several months ago, well before any attacks were imminent. And in the wake of the general's killing, a U.S. official revealed to the New York Times that the NSA had intercepted communications the United States had between the Iranian Supreme Leader, the Ayatollah, and General Soleimani, showing that the Ayatollah had not yet approved any plans by the general for an attack, which it wasn't. It's a lie.
It's stupid to begin with. It's the same thing as
This
the
has been
Iraq
planned
War
for a while.
Justification, right? It's
Right.
just, you're going to do bad stuff in the future. What is this, Minority Report? Is this the Future Crimes Division? What's going on? You're going to retaliate against something someone is planning to do in the future that you know that they're planning to do because you say so?
Yeah.
You're not going to present any evidence? No. In fact, we're going to assassinate first and then tell people why we did it and then not give them any of the evidence to support the thing of why we did it. The other thing that I've mentioned before but really bums me out with the justification for why we assassinated Soleimani was he's a bad guy. Everyone knows he's a bad guy. You knew he was a bad guy. He's a bad guy. You know he's killed people. He's a bad guy. He orchestrated all these things. It's like, dude, he's a career soldier. He is was the top-ranking military official in Iraq. Of course he has killed people.
He's a fucking general, duh.
Yeah, that's not...
that's what generals do.
Yes, exactly. So
it's like Magdad, what's his name, Mattis, and all the other fucking generals. Of course, they're all killers. They're They're imperialist.
I bet a general signed off on this
terrorist
particular assassination. Is that general now
Yeah,
an
they
open
all
field
are.
for anyone
That's
to be
their
like, dude's a
job.
murderer?
That's their job.
Right. So
It's insane.
that's and the thing that they pin on him, is, Americans have died at the attacks that he has been a part of orchestrating. Yeah, well, he's a top Iranian official, and guess what? Iran has not exactly been a country that the United States has wanted to give foreign aid to or wanted to play nice with for several decades now. Excuse him for getting involved in military actions that happen to go against the United States. Now, I always do this, man. Daniel loves to do this. If you look at a map of Iran, and look at a map with U.S. military bases.
All the bases.
And you're just like, oh, that's it. Iran got its country too close to all of our military bases. Needs to get its country away from all of our military. It's bringing danger right to all of our military bases. How dare they?
And the United States, kind of helped Iraq in the 80s, giving them, nuclear weapons.
Right. Yep.
And, devastated the country not that long ago. So excuse Iran, please.
There's just so much about all of this conflict that it's cognitive dissonance, right? You're just being pulled apart.
The empire's projecting itself onto its victims.
Right. Assassinating him was a peace building tactic.
Right.
Iran's they're going to come get us and they're going to make America less safe. We're certainly not the aggressors here. All of it is just, your head is spinning so fast. So we had to do this in retaliation for, they attacked the American Embassy compound. How many casualties were there in the American Embassy compound that this militia group raided? Oh, 0? Interesting. Oh, a little bit of property destruction. Wait, well, why did they raid the compound? Oh, looks like we murdered 25 of them from a helicopter and injured almost 100 more. Oh, they must have done something really bad to warrant that. Oh, one of their guys fired a shoulder-mounted rocket at the American Embassy compound that killed somebody. One person. Yeah. One American contractor. It's not clear exactly who did it and under whose orders. Now, here's the thing that really gets me. This really gets me is we said that shoulder-mounted rocket, that was done at Iran told them to do that. You're like, that's weird. Why is Iran telling an Iraqi militia what to do? Also, an Iraqi militia that has been absorbed into the Iraqi armed forces. It's a coalition force of the Iraqi military. Right. So the Iraqi military is taking direct orders from Soleimani now. That's what we're to say. Certainly they're allied, but you're saying that Iran is at fault for the actions of a militia group that is Iraqi, that is part of the Iraqi military, that in sum total killed one American contractor. And when we talk about an American Embassy compound, that's a living space, a living quarter space.
Right.
Right? So this is not like the official office building. This isn't where Americans go if they need to get their visa looked at or if they need, they lost their passport when they're in Iraq, right?
Right.
This is living quarters for American expatriates and diplomatic service members and sort of military non-combatant folks. It's almost like a giant barracks or living area. It's large. Here's an interesting fun fact, right? So before Iraq asked us to leave the first time in 2011, there were around 13,000 people living in this American Embassy compound. In 2012, the year after Iraq asked us to leave the first time, there were 16,000 people. We increased the number of Americans living in this American Embassy compound in the year after Iraq asked us to leave. They have extremely formally asked us to leave. It has gone through their Congress now. That was just a couple weeks ago. And we're still saying, well, it was a non-binding resolution, so they're not really asking us to leave, so we're going to stay. This is so frustrating on so many levels.
I know.
I'm sorry, I'm bogarting all this.
No, but it's just still, it's so insufferable. Trump is saying horrible criminal things still. Since Soleimani's assassination, Iraqi's parliament has voted to expel all U.S. troops from the country, and Iran's Grand Ayatollah has sworn to exact severe revenge, which we're seeing right now, on the people that committed this crime, which was the U.S. empire and the Trump administration. And Trump has been tweeting, these criminal tweets saying that he's going to destroy all these historical sites, more war crimes added to the list under his belt. So it's just unbelievable what we're seeing.
Yeah,
And the only way to stop this is to have an anti-imperialist war movement that's rooted in anti-capitalism in the streets, challenging empire and challenging all of the institutions that benefit from imperialism. And that's the only way that we're going to stop this. And that's the only way that we're going to stop the empire from continuing. Because as long as the U.S. empire exists, world peace will never happen.
Right.
And that's just a fact.
Yeah. It's interesting. So this is even before all of the Soleimani stuff happened in the past week. I have been noticing that the anti-war left is like mostly absent, right? There was a pretty large contingent of anti-war left activism in the early 2000s, right? 2003
Right.
Iraq War. There was a lot of protests. It was pretty visceral. People remember that. No blood for oil, right? That was the
Right.
slogan. And in the wake of that, in the current, in the contemporary era where we are now, I do see some anti-war activism, more broadly speaking, politically, right, outside of the context of Iran, right? Mm-hmm. But mostly it's coming from an isolationist right-wing perspective, which is really bothersome to me. Like, it's one of those where you're like, I kind of want to just take the, anti-war stance and just be like, all right, at least we're anti-war, but something about how that individual gets to that type of isolationism, that type of anti-war, I just don't think is good or correct. That just there's something to be said about how you get there.
And I also think it was more of like a partisan thing back then too, because it was like a Republican war, and that's not how it should be. I think it needs to be obviously it's much larger than that. It's not both parties are pro-war.
Yeah.
So we got two pro-war parties, two pro-capitalist parties. They're controlled by the same people. The Democratic Party is not an opposition party. It is the opposite of an opposition party. They just gave Trump the biggest military gift in the world. The NDAA, they stripped out everything that could have stopped Trump from doing what he did.
National Defense Authorization Act.
Right.
Yep.
And look where it's gotten us.
Yeah, I mean, so to me, the silver lining, the little bit of, light at the end of the tunnel is that this type of action, this egregious, assassination and escalation and the tit-for-tat response and the disproportionate bombings is the kind of thing that is actually getting people out to protest again. Like you were at the anti-war protest this past weekend. I saw a video of that. I didn't get to go, but hopefully that grows. Hopefully that escalates. Hopefully we see a resurgence of the no blood for oil. Maybe,
yes.
Hopefully, because that's what stops this type of thing. That's what stops military aggression from our government. That's what changes government policy is getting out there and protesting, actual activism.
Yeah, and this time around, back then, there wasn't really much alternative media that can really, that could really, plant the seeds of critical class consciousness. Mm-hmm. And anti-war sentiment, anti-imperialist sentiment, and anti-capitalist sentiment. And, that's why we have outlets like The Gray Zone, Empire Files. What else is there?
For specifically anti-war
type?
I don't know, Jimmy Dore?
The Jimmy Dore Show. I can't believe I didn't say that. But yes, The Jimmy Dore Show.
Graham Elwood, political vigilante.
Elwood, the Real News Network is good.
Yeah.
Caitlin
Johnstone,
Katie Halper.
Yep.
So hopefully these outlets can really. I think having those outlets now is going to change.
Well, and talking about those outlets, because to be fair, this
landscape.
is what we are doing is commentary and discussion,
Right.
right? And so the folks that really do the heavy lifting legwork are folks like Ben Norton, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, Anya Parampil,
Parampil, yeah.
Parampil,
Rania Kalick.
yeah, Eva
Kalick.
Bartlett, Vanessa Beeley. Vanessa Beeley is of Mint Press News. Eva Bartlett, I think, is freelance. But the first few names I mentioned, Ben Norton, Max Blumenthal, and Aaron Mate, and the like, are from the Gray Zone Project. And I think those are some of the few investigative journalism outlets that sort of take this general starting point, this perspective, and go, okay, well, we've gotten to the end of what we can reason and understand without getting out of our chairs and out from in front of the computer screen. Time to actually go to Venezuela and find out. Time to actually
Right.
go to Syria
They're
and
the
find
ones that
out.
actually go
yeah. and
actually
get those
do
interviews.
the-
And yeah,
They're doing the jobs that fucking Anderson Cooper's supposed to be doing, and all these big time multi-million-dollar journalists do, but they don't do any of that. They just read a script and pretend that they
stenographers for power, right?
They're stenographers for the ruling elites. So hopefully outlets that, like we just mentioned, really help change the political landscape with this war that we're in right now. Because, again, we need to get in the streets, and that's the only way to stop it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Put your hands on the gears, right?
Exactly.
Who said that? I have to look at if somebody knows in the chat. Throw that in the comments somewhere.
Yeah.
All of the people that are watching right now. It'll be on the internet.
It'll be on the
Somebody
internet.
will watch it. Somebody will find it later.
Yeah.
/ I'm going to Google it while
All
we're
the 3 people that
continuing
are
to talk.
watching right now.